Remote Desktop Protocol, RDP, is a widely used protocol for remote access to computers over the Internet. RDP allows users to remotely connect to a computer and access its files, applications, and desktop as if they were sitting in front of the computer. RDP is particularly useful for businesses that want to allow employees to work from home or for individuals who need to access their computer while they are away. In this article, we will discuss how to set up and use RDP Cloud for remote access. We will cover the following topics. What is RDP Cloud? Why use RDP Cloud for remote access? Setting up RDP Cloud on a Windows server. Configuring RDP Cloud for remote access. Using RDP Cloud for remote access. Best practices for using RDP Cloud. What is RDP Cloud? RDP Cloud is a cloud-based service that allows users to remotely access their Windows desktops, applications, and data from anywhere, using any device. RDP Cloud is a scalable, secure, and cost-effective solution for remote access that eliminates the need for on-premise infrastructure and maintenance. RDP Cloud provides a virtualized desktop environment that allows users to run applications, access files, and use software just as they would on their local computer. RDP Cloud can be accessed from any device, including desktops, laptops, tablets, and smartphones, and it provides a seamless user experience across all platforms. Why use RDP Cloud for remote access? There are several advantages to using RDP Cloud for remote access. Scalability. RDP Cloud is a scalable solution that can be easily adjusted to accommodate changing business needs. As the number of remote workers increases, RDP Cloud can be scaled up to provide additional resources. Security. RDP Cloud provides a secure way to access corporate resources from outside the network. With RDP Cloud, all data is stored in a secure data center, and users can access their data through a secure connection. Cost-effectiveness. RDP Cloud eliminates the need for on-premise infrastructure and maintenance, reducing costs for businesses. With RDP Cloud, businesses only pay for the resources they use, making it a cost-effective solution for remote access. Accessibility. RDP Cloud can be accessed from any device, making it easy for remote workers to access corporate resources from anywhere, at any time. Setting up RDP Cloud on a Windows server. To set up RDP Cloud on a Windows server, you will need to follow these steps. Step 1. Choose a cloud provider. The first step in setting up RDP Cloud is to choose a cloud provider. There are many cloud providers available, including Amazon Web Services, AWS, Microsoft Azure, and Google Cloud Platform. You should choose a cloud provider that meets your business needs and budget. Step 2. Create a Windows Server instance. Once you have chosen a cloud provider, you will need to create a Windows Server instance. You can do this using the cloud provider's management console. You should choose a Windows Server instance that meets your business needs, such as the number of users you will be supporting. Step 3. Install RDP Cloud software. After you have created a Windows Server instance, you will need to install RDP Cloud software. There are many RDP Cloud software solutions available, including Parallels RAS, VMware Horizon, and Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktops. You should choose an RDP Cloud software solution that meets your business needs and budget. Step 4. Configure RDP Cloud software. Once you have installed RDP Cloud software, you will need to configure it for your business needs. This will include configuring the number of users, storage capacity, and network settings. Step. Configuring RDP Cloud for remote access. After you have installed and configured RDP Cloud software on your Windows Server instance, you will need to configure it for remote access. To do this, you will need to follow these steps. Step 1. Configure firewall settings. The first step in configuring RDP Cloud for remote access is to configure firewall settings. You will need to configure your firewall to allow remote access to your Windows Server instance. You can do this by creating a rule that allows inbound traffic on port 3389, which is the default port used by RDP. Step 2. Configure user access. The next step is to configure user access. You will need to create user accounts for each remote user who will be accessing your Windows Server instance. You should also configure user permissions to restrict access to only the resources that are necessary for each user. Step 3. Configure RDP settings. Once you have configured user access, you will need to configure RDP settings. This will include configuring the connection settings, such as the hostname or IP address of your Windows Server instance, the port number, and the authentication method. You can also configure other settings, such as the screen resolution, audio settings, and local device redirection. Using RDP Cloud for remote access. Once you have configured RDP Cloud for remote access, you can start using it to access your Windows desktop, applications, and data from anywhere, using any device. To use RDP Cloud, you will need to follow these steps. Step 1. Connect to your Windows Server instance. The first step in using RDP Cloud is to connect to your Windows Server instance. To do this, you will need to use an RDP client. There are many RDP clients available, including the built-in Remote Desktop Connection client in Windows, as well as third-party clients, such as Microsoft Remote Desktop for Mac and iOS, and Chrome Remote Desktop for Chromebooks. Step 2. Log into your Windows desktop. Once you have connected to your Windows Server instance, you will need to log into your Windows desktop using your user account credentials. You will then be able to access your desktop, applications, and data just as you would on your local computer. Step 3. Use RDP Cloud. After you have logged into your Windows desktop, you can start using RDP Cloud to access your applications and data. You can open and use applications just as you would on your local computer, and you can access files and data stored on your Windows Server instance. Best practices for using RDP Cloud. To ensure that you are using RDP Cloud securely and effectively, you should follow these best practices. Use strong passwords. You should use strong passwords for all user accounts and ensure that they are changed regularly. Use two-factor authentication. You should enable two-factor authentication for all user accounts to provide an extra layer of security. Use encryption. You should use encryption to protect data in transit between the RDP client and the Windows Server instance. Monitor user activity. You should monitor user activity on your Windows Server instance to detect and prevent unauthorized access. Keep software up to date. You should keep your RDP Cloud software and Windows Server instance up to date with the latest security patches and updates. Conclusion. RDP Cloud is a cost-effective, scalable, and secure solution for remote access to Windows desktops, applications, and data. By following the steps outlined in this article, you can set up and configure RDP Cloud for remote access, and use it to access your resources from anywhere, using any device. By following best practices for using RDP Cloud, you can ensure that you are using it securely and effectively, and minimize the risk of unauthorized access or data breaches.